HAFIZ TV, unique every day.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to greet all of you, both my Muslim brothers and others of other religious persuasions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. This media briefing is intended to be as brief as possible. I'm not saying that it will be very brief, but it will be as brief as possible, barring any controversies, because they are not. I don't anticipate controversial issues coming up. First and foremost, I'd like to give thanks to, on behalf of the chairman of the National Hajj Task Force, Honorable Alhaji Collins Dawah, and the members of the Hajj Task Force 2025. This is to shed light on current developments in respect of this year's Hajj. I begin by giving thanks, unquantifiable thanks to Allah Almighty for giving us life and good health to be able to deal with this important national assignment. But for his magnanimity, we won't be here. I also want to thank and commend you in the media. I always address you as my colleagues because I have been a media person for over 30 years. So I always cherish meetings like this with you because it brings me some nostalgia. And as the Dogomba say, no matter how disenchanted the old Sadia is, you will not shy away from the barracks. So I always have my media umbilical cord tight and remembered. Now, let me commence this. Before I give you the update, I need to render an unqualified apology to our brothers and sisters in Islam who unfortunately, for one reason or the other, has not been able to perform this year's Hajj. When somebody has made a covenant with Allah Almighty to come and be the guest of Allah for this Hajj, it is a very sacred occasion. It's a very sacred covenant he's entered into. And so sometimes it's very difficult if the person has conditioned his or her mind to make the Hajj, and for one reason or the other, it doesn't materialize. Some can be very disappointing. I want to share the pain and disappointment of a few of them who, for a variety of reasons, some of which we shall get into, they are unable to make the Hajj. Both a few of the paid pilgrims and those who are on the protocol, and especially from those, the party in the regions and others who haven't conditioned their mind, have not been able to undertake this exercise. I am, on behalf of the dissent, profoundly sorry and issue an apology and ask for their forgiveness. As Muslims, we all accept the fact that no human being is 100%, and that it is not only our good deeds that can send us to Jannatul Firdaus, but the forgiveness and the magnanimity of Allah. Equally so, we are also asking that where we are falling short, we ask for your forgiveness, and together I'm sure that we shall continue to work for better improvement. The next one. Now, the update specifically is that as at this morning, we have done 13 flights. 13 flights. 7 of the flights originating from Tamale International Airport, and 6 originating from Accra. The 7th one just took place this morning. We have, in terms of numbers, about 5,400 and some 5,500 and some small other numbers. So approximately, we are getting closer to 5-6 for the 13 flights. We were to follow this up with a flight tomorrow to conclude the 2025 Hajj with the 14th flight. Unfortunately, some developments necessitated the rescheduling. It's not a postponement, it's a rescheduling to another date. And the tentative date we have in mind is on the 28th of May. That is next week, Wednesday, to complete the final flight, that's the 14th flight, which we expect, inshallah, if it does happen, will bring us closer to a total of about 6,000 pilgrims who will be taken to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the 2025 Hajj, representing the Republic of Ghana. If this materializes, as I say, we should get to 6,000, about 6,000 pilgrims. We are expecting that on that day. Now, why did we have to? That's a natural question that follows. What happened for the flights to be shifted? First and foremost, we had a few outstanding issues on our plate. It has come to our notice and our realization that some of our pilgrims paid and protocol were left out in the issuance of visas. It is one of the most critical challenges that we faced in the issuance of visas. And I'm sure that you appreciate it, my brothers and sisters, that Ghana does not control the issuance of visas. The issuance of visas is the duty, prerogative, and under the authority of the Embassy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Ghana. Ultimately, to also tied to the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah Affairs in Saudi Arabia. So, obviously, it is clearly out of our hands. But in the course of the preparation for the issuance of visas, some few errors occurred in respect of some agents, where some paid up agents, and they are not, let me be very clear, they are not many. In the case of one agent, that is where we have the biggest number, about 43, called TOFA. TOFA agency featured 53, and about 43 of them did not have visas, and I'll come and explain that. That is the single biggest one. But for, I think, 2 or 3 other agents, they are just a maximum of 2 or 3, not beyond that. And so I mentioned TOFA. I need to just explain it before we go. TOFA is one of the agencies that says we presented 53. Now, the process of getting people to acquire visas is that when payment has been made, you must, as quickly as possible, within the stipulation of the deadline, and take note that this year we fixed a deadline of March 13th, 2025. So when the payments are made to the bank, you make a compilation of the payment, accompanied with receipts, and then also forward your relevant documentation. I need to say that again. After presenting all this, evidence of payment in terms of receipts and others, you will have to bring along to the Hajj Task Force office documentation of the individual pilgrim. So normally the most important document here is the passport. So if you make all the payments and you don't submit the passports on time, it could result into an issue where when the quotas are exhausted, you may not get your pilgrims featured. So in the case of TOFA, those payments were made, but it took a hell of time to get TOFA to submit the documentation of the individual pilgrims who had paid, so that the processing of their visas could take place. And I say this, you are media people. If you know those who are accredited media Hajj agents from here, you can go and speak to them. In fact, the chairman of the Hajj Agents Association, Alhaji Alasanji, if you bear witness, we had to even rely on him a number of times to try and get back to TOFA to continue to press on him, impress upon him to submit the documentation. It went on for timeless, endless periods, and those documents did not come. And so the issue of, they say if you are suffering in hell, blame death. The issue now is because the number of people who are suffering the casualties as a result of their inability to access the visas is largely, not in this case of just payment, but the very late submission of documentation by TOFA. So that we got from them timeously enough was 10, and all the 10 have been processed and they've gone. There are 1 or 2 left who may go. So this is the difficulty that we had with the certification of TOFA. Our principal attention is that, and our major preoccupation is that nobody, as far as we want to see, nobody should pay and be left behind. We make it a cardinal attention to ensure that every paid up agent, no matter the difficulty, will try and do everything possible to ensure that that pilgrim is sent to Saudi Arabia to perform the Hajj. But in this case, this was an unavoidable difficulty that we had to deal with this late distance. So, among all this, together with some in protocol who, for one reason or another, there were also passports that we could not even locate here. And so these and other factors led to the decision of the board, and in consultation with the airline, which also had 1 or 2 challenges, stretching it to say maybe Monday. It was decided that we shift the flight, the last flight, to Wednesday, 28th of May 2025, to also afford us some opportunity to right some of the wrongs or some of the challenges that have come in respect of ensuring that especially paid up pilgrims get corrected. So I can assure you here that everything is being done to make sure that those who were not captured but paid and their documentation were ready, the Hajj task force will do everything humanly possible to make sure that in the last flight they are captured. And take note, at least the minimum that we have gotten on every flight is 425 pilgrims per flight. So I want to state without any equivocation that we would take every legitimate and legal step to ensure that those in these categories that I've mentioned will be catered for. For those that unavoidably cannot be featured in this year's Hajj but have paid, for which I have rendered a qualified apology on behalf of the Hajj Task Force, in the event that they are not able to go, we are organizing for immediate refunds. As I speak to you now, I think that the process has already unfolded. Should it happen, or there are some who come and say, look, because I've reached where I've reached now, no, I'm no longer interested to go this year, I can assure all those other people that immediately those kinds of requests can come in, the refunds will be very ready. So we are making the efforts to get this thing done. Now, I also need to indicate that not too long ago, we saw on social media, and my colleagues in the media, you patronize it more than some of us who were born before computer. Somebody purporting to be a concerned Muslim took to the airwaves and peddled at that time what he called legitimate grievances of our Muslim brothers and sisters who had already been airlifted to Saudi Arabia. He parroted so many things: bad accommodation, terrible food, unconcerned task force members, bad medical care, and all those kinds of concerns that he raised, with the intent to denigrate the image and integrity of the Hajj task force. They say Allah doesn't contract debt, but Allah pays. Within a space of about 4 to 5 days, this same person, by the grace of Allah Almighty, came back on social media to recant, to retract, and to render an unqualified apology, to the effect that, by his own admission, that what he had said days before was nothing but a pack of lies, and that these were carefully fabricated, concocted, and peddled with the intent to denigrate the image and integrity of the Hajj task force. These are his own words, that they have sat down and planned this thing, and he took on the unholy task, an unholy task in a holy country, to peddle that falsehood. And so he came back to social media to ask the Hajj task force and the Muslim Ummah to forgive him. To forgive him. And that it was intended to muddy the image, dirty the image of the Hajj task force. And so, say that if the mad fish comes to tell you that the crocodile has belly ache, who are you to dispute it? He came from the bottom of the river to tell us those concocted stories. Now he's back to tell us that those things were false, they were peddled out of mischief with the intent to, as it were, denigrate the image of the Hajj task force. And so clearly, all of us know today that the Hajj task force, and I want to tell you here for the record, they say that it is a man who has no drum who beats his chest to trumpet his achievements. I want to say without any iota of doubt that this Hajj task force has performed creditably so far. If you were to ask if you have a parent or a relative or a friend who is left for Saudi Arabia, is there now, you can call the person and ask, what is the state of the condition of their housing? I can tell you that the housing we've secured is up to standard. Indeed, when the task force went to secure the accommodation before even the Hajj commenced, there are certain standards the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah Affairs will not accept if it is below a certain standard. And also, from our own embassy and other officials, they are there to also vet and ensure that these things are up to standard. And more importantly, in an area that is not too far from the Haram, where our pilgrims can easily go and do the ziyarah, pray up to midnight at any time, and it will not take them too long to walk back to their places of residence. That is what has happened. We have a number of accomplished caterers who have gone. Maybe the food, the Saudi food may not be very good for them. So it was our intuition that we should get people who can cook very well Ghanaian food today. So we have a variety of Ghanaian foods. TZ with mi and suri. TZ with mi and kuka. TZ with ayoyo.
All of these are there.
Tuo with kubewa busese. Banku. Okro stew. Banku pepper tilapia. Tubani, you know tubani? That's a favorite thing. It's a Dagoma food, but the Mushis have been parasiting us and eating it a lot. Tubani is there. There is even gable. There is fufu. Typical Ghanaian food that you can talk about, which our pilgrims comment. We have a top-notch medical team made up of led by an accomplished, universally acclaimed medical doctor of many years experience and expertise. Dr. Tanko, who now has been appointed as the director of the University of Ghana School of Medical Excellence. He's leading a team of over 50 doctors and other paramedical staff who at short notice are standing by and are rendering qualified medical care to our programs. So nobody can afford that. Transportation to places that they will do ziyarah. There have been pictures we've even put on our line, and I encourage many people to try and see whether they can get some of it and see. Those who want to do ziyarah at short notice, when the indication comes, transportation is organized to send them when they are coming from Medina to Makkah. Similarly. So on all scores of all those sectors where their welfare is concerned, we have endeavored to discharge to public satisfaction. I will not sit here and say that everything has been done 100% perfect. You can get a few occasions when there's a small delay because the bus did not arrive early, or maybe the quantity of food was not enough to go around this, but almost immediately it's rectified. And I remember even the gentleman who was talking about the peddler who was peddling those for food indicated that there was one room where the air condition did not work out of over 300 rooms. Even if, assuming without admitting that that is true, if out of 300 rooms, one air condition does not work in a room, does that negate the work of the distance? We are in this room, this air condition can cease. It's a machine. But the proactiveness to do that. But even he himself came out to deny that it is not true. So I want to say that the task force advanced team has functioned to the best of public expectation, especially to our pilgrims. They have been elated by the kind of quality of service that they've rendered, notwithstanding whatever issues one will talk about. And I also need to apprise you of a development. Unfortunately, we've had 5 of our pilgrims deported.
Say that again.
5 of our pilgrims deported.
Deported.
Oh, let me put, yeah, because deportation is like you go to Petroleum, then they bring you back. Deported, so let me make that clear. I would have used the word repatriated because they have not committed any crime. In fact, if they had committed any crime, I'm sure they would have been in the custody of the Saudi authorities. They did not. So, yeah, I'm bringing you the soup. Don't eat the fufu first. The reason being that, unfortunately, when they departed, in the process of processing flights subsequent to where they have departed, there was a mix-up. And so, and then also too, the leadership of the Hajj Task Force, that's the members of the Hajj Task Force, in line with this issue that I mentioned to you about a need to reappraise the visas and ensure that especially paid out pilgrims are catered for. In the process of realigning some of these visas, some few mistakes were committed, resulting in the 5 of them having their visas cancelled. So when they emplaned, the visas were here when they got in, went to Saudi Arabia, and for that very unfortunate reason, the visas were not available at the airport. And so when they were checking through, the Saudi immigration, as it were, detected that fault or mistake and decided to hold them. First, there was one person, I think, on our earlier flights, and then 4, I think, this morning, who came back from, I think, from the 4th flight from Accra here. So we have 5 in total, 2 of them protocol. But let me explain. 2 of them, from information made available to me by the leadership, indicates that the 2 of them were from our IT department, that is what I'm told, that they were told not to travel because of certain exigencies. But in the process, this thing came up. And so, administratively, it is something that is being looked to do. But with the 3 pilgrims, others, they were paid up agents. And so, immediately, the leadership of the task force has set to work to make sure that they rectify the error and make sure that those who legitimately were entitled to travel, who had entered into this unfortunate spree, will be reprocessed to be taken back on the last flight on the 28th of May. That is next week, Wednesday. So, inshallah, it is our expectation that the people who were brought back in this call, through no fault of theirs, will be sent back. And I want to take the opportunity to apologize to them unreservedly, to send the apology of the task force for the inconvenience and perhaps even, you can say, embarrassment they suffered in the decision. It wasn't intended. The next issue I would want to also address is the Bongo issue. I have been lampooned, insulted, treated with opprobrium and subjected to abuse and verbiage for mentioning this Bongo issue. Many people think that it's a sacred issue that people should not talk about. But I have always said that when Allah Almighty puts you in a position of trust, you have a responsibility to act with dignity, respect, and in truth. It is clear that the Saudi authorities have indicated that these are laws that they have initiated earlier. But this year, they are going to exhibit a zero tolerance for the breach of their laws. Especially that they will not tolerate taking a tourist visa to do Hajj. I will say that again. That they are saying they will exhibit a zero tolerance for anyone wanting to use a tourist visa to perform Hajj. This is from the Ministry of Interior in Saudi Arabia. It is not from the Hajj task force in Ghana. And I have even seen headlines, very screaming headlines in newspapers, saying that A.B.A. Fuseini threatens to arrest people who use tourist visa. My brother said, look at a poor man, me sitting here like this. Can I arrest somebody on tourist visa in Saudi Arabia? Who am I? Even I myself, if I go to Saudi Arabia, they will arrest me. So how can a helpless person help somebody? So clearly, these are the laws from Saudi Arabia. And they have indicated that in enforcing that, in anybody who breaches these regulations, and we have it, I will show some of the Saudi things on the phone to listen, when we live here, I can exhibit it at evidence that anybody caught in breach of that may be fined as high as 200,000 Saudi riyals. So 3.5 Saudi riyals is equal to $1. So there are some of you, some of us, our mathematics teacher died before we went to school. So if you can do some fat mathematics, it will tell you that you are talking about closer to about over 60,000 something dollars. That is a huge amount to be imposed as a fine on people who are caught in this case. So I sitting here will be at much pain. In addition to the fact that you'll be restricted, you'll be incarcerated. I'm sure you have friends. Some of them will tell you, I was in the deep of the night called by a certain medical doctor when he was almost in tears that his mother had been picked up and had been incarcerated in some facility where they cannot come out. They don't have access to their freedom of movement and others, and so they went to do the Hajj and they cannot do it. In addition, they are threatening to impose those fines on them. How are they going to make it? And I was begging if the task force the High Task Force could intervene to seek the release of those people, so that even if they have to bring them back, repatriate them or deport them, they will be very happy to have that. Such is the decision. So if it happens and we are putting out the information, we are not putting it out because we are against somebody earning a certain daily bread of somebody or trying to frustrate anybody. But it's just that the law frowns on it. And we here have a duty to bring that information to the notice of our Muslim Ummah, so that they do not fall foul to that and go and be subjected to excruciating hardships and the infringement of their right of freedom of movement and the ability to go and do the Hajj. So clearly, it is a worrying phenomenon. The other effect is that we have consciously calculated how the welfare of our pilgrims will be central to us. So when we are going to any place, we have buses that are enough for our pilgrims. But if you get some people coming from outside to come and mingle, interfere, intrude into our numbers, they will dilute the welfare of our pilgrims. If some of them find their way into their rooms, if you had 4 to a room, you will come and see 6 people sleeping in the same room. That's some inconvenience. It will interfere with the convenience of our pilgrims. If food was meant for 10 people and you have 15 people, and even if you are lucky, if you are unlucky to have somebody who has an insatiable appetite for food joining that rank, you can be sure that your participation and your level of diet would shrink considerably. So clearly, together with many factors, buses, you are going to Mina, you are going to Muzdalifah, you are going to stone the devil, or you are going to do this, where it involves movement of our numbers. If people intrude, it will impact adversely on the success that we want to achieve with our numbers. So clearly, for this and all these other reasons, this bongo phenomena is frowned upon. In addition to the fundamental fact that it infringes Saudi law, and the Saudis are those who are tasked with that responsibility of enforcing it. So, my brothers and sisters, these are the very key issues that has informed our Hajj. The task force has also asked me to convey the felicitations of His Excellency. Indeed, before when the pilgrims check in and before they join the buses to move out, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, who had actually wanted to be part to come here and see how they will depart, has, through the chairman of the task force, conveyed his message of goodwill to the pilgrims, to wish them safe journey, to wish them a successful Hajj, and to ask for prayers for Ghana, not only for himself. Yes, prayers for himself is welcome, but more importantly, prayers for the government and the people of the Republic of Ghana, so that this country will continue to know peace and prosperity, so that this country, the blessings Allah Almighty has bestowed on us as a people, that we are one of the most peaceful in this world, will continue to see the peace endure. To even pray now that the dollar is running away from the city, by the grace of Almighty Allah, it should even come down further, so that the progress of the lives of our people will be better. So in their prayers, they should not forget to pray for a stronger economy, from a stronger productive base, so that our country's progress, once there's progress in the country, it doesn't know MPP, it doesn't know NDC, it doesn't know it's the progress of all Ghanaians. And I want to say here that His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama is a huge blessing to the Islamic Ummah. I am not here to do any propaganda. I'm just saying so that these are plain facts. You all recall that in last year's Hajj, the fare was 75,000 Ghana cedis. Through not the instrumentality, directive. It was a directive by President John Dramani Mahama when he was inaugurating the task force, the High Task Force, that they should do everything possible to bring down the fare. And not just bring down the fare, considerably. And so with that mandate behind them, today we all know what the fare is. It has come down considerably from 75,000 to 62,000. And so you have been here to cover this thing. You see that there's an explosion. There's an explosion of the zeal to patronize the Hajj this year. Many more than the Hajj task force is able to take. Because when I say it's able to take, the Hajj task force itself cannot just arbitrarily increase numbers. Every country has been given what we call a quota by the Saudi authorities. So we are guarded by a quota. And Ghana, our quota is just, I think, about 6,000. Little bit about 6,000. You can't get it more than that. So we have stretched our quota to almost the maximum limit. But I can tell you that largely on account of two factors. One, the reduction in the fare from 75,000 to 62,000. And also the ease in the acquisition of passports. It is unprecedented in the annals of our Hajj history that acquisition of passport has been made the easiest. And this also followed the directive of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, who directed the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable A.B.A, to take all legal and legitimate steps to make sure that the pilgrims who want to acquire passport for the purposes of patronizing the Hajj get it. And for the first time in the history of our Islamic activities, the Hajj village here, right here at this Hajj village, the Minister for Foreign Affairs led the Director of Passports and their directors to come at the tent on the other side there to establish a full-blown passport office. And the interesting and very innovative thing was that the minister gave the directive, and which was promptly complied with, that issuance of passports should not take more than 72 hours. 72 hours is 3 days. Not more. That means that's the maximum. Indeed, people had their passports, some had their passports within 48 hours. And the super thing about it was that they did not pay 1 cedi extra. Because when you want passports normally from outside, that's what we call priority. I'm sure you are aware. So if you want priority, you pay a huge amount. But for the priority, sometimes you even get it after 72 hours. You not get it like the pilgrims got here. And you still pay higher. But the pilgrims here paid normal 500 Ghana cedis. Or is it 450? 450. Yeah, the normal charge was paid for express service. So once again, this was from the magnanimity of His Excellency the President. I'm sure some of you have covered. When the pilgrims have checked in through and they are waiting for the buses to pick them, the President gave free ihram, free. Bags. Very beautiful bag. In fact, I'm longing to have one as a very good souvenir. Okay? And not only, you have a big bag, and then one you can sling on your shoulder here to keep your passport and others. So, the man who gives you a piece of his roast yam, if you've pound fufu, you eat and drink soup. It is clear to us, and that is why I said there are many other things for want of time I could have said, and that is why I said His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama is a huge blessing to the Islamic Ummah. And so I'm just at the tail end of our destiny, and I'm sure that from here we'll open the floor for anybody who wants to feature questions. But let nobody be mistaken. The task force, the Hajj 2025 task force, has at the top of its priority the overwhelming interest in the welfare and progress of our pilgrims. And in everything that has been done, that has remained paramount. I'm sure that, like I said, you have friends, you have relatives and others. If that welfare were not properly taken care of, I'm sure by now you yourself, your ears would have been full of complaints. But that, so far, and even including the fact that somebody has to go and lie about it, and then the reality stared him in the face, and he has had to come and recant, to retract and apologize, means that welfare is something that we take. The last thing I will say is, unfortunately, in the process of the Hajj, we have lost 2 people. One was here in Ghana in preparation to embark on the Hajj. The person passed on. And then one has passed on in Mecca. A female, during one of the Tamale flights. He went with the Tamale flight and unfortunately just got a short illness and passed on in Mecca. So if you are talking about the Hajj proper, it's one. But in the process of the entire Hajj, it's permissible to say that we lost 2 lives. And so that is why we of the Hajj Task Force have said that we will do everything possible to facilitate the travel of the Hajj pilgrims. We will give them the maximum welfare and comfort, and inshallah, bring everyone we have sent to Saudi Arabia back to Ghana, except, and this is the proviso, except that they are alive, which is beyond our hands. No member of the Hajj Task Force has any power to guarantee life for anybody. Even we ourselves, we can't even guarantee your own life. Life is the prerogative of Allah Almighty. He decides when He wants to recall anybody. And so if Allah decides to recall, who are we to put a stop? But so long as there's life in anybody we have taken by the grace of Allah Almighty, we shall endeavor to bring them back safe and sound. So I'm sure we've covered the key parts of this, and we are hoping that on the 28th of May, when we do the final flight, we have concluded our 14th flight and would have gotten a number of about 6,000 pilgrims for this year's Hajj, unprecedented in the annals of our Hajj history. So I'd like to thank all of you for responding to us at short notice. I know that the media, the battle cry is ever ready. So you don't frighten a chief warrior with a mustache. So the floor will now be open for questions.
Your media house.
My name is Hamza Adams, Zuria FM, Hamza TV, as well as Voice of America. Respectfully, let's, I think, make sure that all of us are fair to ourselves, looking at what you people have done. You deserve an accolade. Looking at when you started, and it's an orphan Hajj task force. So I think you deserve an accolade for that.
Thank you very much.
You made mention of the quota.
Yes.
It's about 6,000.
Yes.
Yesterday night I had an interview with Al-Hajj Ismail Askun, whom I think is the executive secretary.
He's the administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said it's 5,910. So I don't know whether...
Did he say the quota is 5,910? Yeah. Or he said the figure that he has is 5,000?
That is what he said.
So maybe let's revise it. Okay.
So I don't know. We want to know the exact figure.
Okay.
And there are some issues here and there with regards to some pilgrims who have made some payment. There is an old woman who paid to an agent called A.B.A. I think he's at Dawah.
Okay.
And currently she's not gotten her visa. I don't know how you can solve this problem.
Okay.
And thank you so much for informing people that you quickly make reference to those who've not been able to be airlifted to Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so can we take about 3 so that we respond?
Yes. Okay. So please, your name. Okay, hi.
Your name and your media house, please.
My name is Abdul Hanan. I work with GH1 TV and stuff. I want you to clarify the number of those who will not be making it this year. You mentioned 43 with regards to TUFA, and then another 3, that is a minimum of 3, that has to do with paid, and then the protocol. So can you give us the exact figure of those who are not making it? You mentioned that 5 people have been deported, but you earlier warned that anybody who performs Hajj with tourist visa will be dealt with the Saudi authorities. Is there any updates to that effect? How many people have been arrested, if any? And what has been their situation?
Okay.
The last one is, how many people do you anticipate to airlift from Ghana to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the 28th of May?
I will get the last one.
All right, Alaji, my name is Larry. I work with HAFIZ TV. We are currently live on HAFIZ TV, and then one Manan Bagaya has admitted he has been deported. He's part of the people who have been deported. We also have some questions here where someone, Mariam Kiptia, told us asking, how about those with visas? But anytime they come, then they tell them they should come the next day, and they are unable to go. So these are the questions that are here at the moment.
Okay, so I'm sure that we can pause here and then take some answers, and then if there are further questions, then we'll go. The first one is about the number of pilgrims. As I indicated to you, our quota is just a little bit above 6,000. I'm sure probably what the administrator was discussing with you was about the eventual final figure of 5,900, which is anticipated about 5,975 or so. That is why we just approximated it to 6,000. And that's why you see I said about 6,000. So it's a figure close to 6,000. So that 5,900 and something, I think, will be the eventual figure that we are. But our quota is about 6,100 shy, just about that. So that's why I said we have almost stretched our quota to the maximum limit. And so this is the figure that we have. You talked about the pilgrims who are unable to go. We have indicated clearly, and that's what I said at the beginning. First, I rendered an unqualified apology to those who, in the unlikely event that we've done everything and they cannot go. But I said that especially the priority is with those who are paid. Those paid up pilgrims, everything possible will be done. But I took pains to also indicate that those who paid within the stipulated time is very important. There were some agents, and it has been the history of, if anybody here is conversant with the organization of the Hajj, he will tell you that the agents, after the deadline has been pronounced, will continue to take money from the pilgrims in the hope that over the years, by practice, because the numbers are not attained, they will extend the deadline. So, just like this year, I think the pilgrims, the agents, they have been at this for more than 20 years, so they are experienced. So they know that, oh, the Hajj Committee, they have just set a deadline, but they will extend it. So they will take money. So unfortunately this time, they got it wrong. Unfortunately this time, there was no extension. What happened was a very narrow window. So it was not an extension, where they just gave at a meeting with maybe just the Hajj Task Force complaints that they were saddled with those kinds of payments immediately and needed that rectification. They were just given a window of some small numbers to close that gap. But no extension was made. Because an extension means you make the information available to the general public that spaces are still available and those who want to pay can come and pay. Never happened. On March 30th, when we closed and said that the deadline had closed, it was closed. It was never open. So some agents must have taken some monies from pilgrims, hoping that that extension will be done. So in reality, they have paid. If you want to say that, have they paid to the Hajj? They have paid. But when did they pay? They paid after the deadline. So if you go out there, your pilgrim can exercise the right to be angry. I have paid, but I'm not going. But his agent will not tell him the truth that at the times the monies were paid, the deadline had expired. So in that case, you cannot have a legally enforceable contract with the Hajj task force, because our mandate was up to the 13th of March. Any payment after the 13th of March does not put an obligation on us to make good the contract to fly the pilgrim to Saudi Arabia. So I am appealing to you to make a distinction. Payment, yes, but not all payment is payment. Some payments are outside the deadline, and for that matter, will not count as much as payment that is made before the deadline. And so that is part of the decision. So agents who collected monies and didn't tell their pilgrims that the monies were collected outside the deadline, we will continue maybe to tell them, oh, we will get the visa for you. And then the backlash will come on the task force, that the task force has failed to provide them with visas and others, even though they have paid. So let us endeavor to interrogate when somebody is angry and saying that it's paid, and try and find out when the payment was made and when was the payment made, and more important, like I said, whether it was also accompanied by the relevant documentation submitted on time. I said it here, and that is why I mentioned I didn't mention it with pleasure. It was with difficulty and pain that I mentioned TOFA. And one of the problems with TOFA was the documentation was very late in coming. And like I said, if you live here, the chairman of the Hajj Agents Association is there, Alhaji Alasan. You can ask him. Even the task force had to seek his assistance to ask persistently for the documentation to be brought, for something to be done. So I think there are issues pertaining to the problem of the time of the processing visas. You see, and ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me make this thing very clear. The issuance of visa is not under the control of the Hajj task force. It is the right of the Saudi authorities. So if they tell you that, look, by the 2nd of May, if all your visas are not, your documentation is not before us, the visa ends. And somebody decides to bring the documents of his pilgrims on the 4th or 5th of May. Let us be honest with ourselves. Is that the problem of the Hajj task force? So, and I said, especially in this case, the problem with this particular agency had to do with the lateness in the submission of documentation. So even though payment must have been made, the late submission of documentation is an obstacle to the pilgrims obtaining. But meanwhile, the pilgrims are innocent. They don't know. They don't know what has happened in respect. So they have every legitimate right to claim outside there that we have paid and we are deliberately being frustrated by the Hajj task force from getting our visas. Meanwhile, the visas, we don't control the issuance of visas. If we had, I can tell you by the God we serve that it will not do us any addition to prevent a pilgrim from going to Mecca. It will rather be to our score to have issued the visas to them even fast for them to go. But we don't control the visas. Today, we even want some visas from the Saudi Destin, and I'm sure those of you who have lived with the Arabs, if an Arab man tells you la, if you are talking, and then he arrives at a conclusion and say la is la, it doesn't change. So that is the difficulty we have. That when they come to the conclusion that they've shut the visas, you can't do anything, you won't get it. And we can't procure our own visas here. It's they who give us the visas. So what we are currently doing now is to try and mop up. So I can tell you without any of doubt, some of our staff who should have gone, I'm sure if you come here, you see some of them, they work till daybreak. They come in the morning here and they go home the following morning. So it was our decision that, and for no pay, you are just sometimes some small subsistence. It's nothing. It's chicken feed. So to reward them for their hard work, some of them were going to be given tickets to go on the Hajj. Some of them, their passports were taken and they got visas. But because of the problems that we have with paid up pilgrims and others who are not going, we are sacrificing some of our own people here. So that is why they have to take some, recall their passports and others, and take their visas so as to meet the exigencies of the difficulties we have outside. So I cannot sit here and just give you the number. But what I can tell you is that everything possible is being done to ensure that pilgrims who were built to go and who have not gone, every little bit of effort we made to make sure that they go. Even if we have to sacrifice even our own staff, which is currently happening. Like I told you, they said even out of the 5, 2 of them are staff from the IT department who have been, if you like, deprived of their visas. They went to Mecca to perform Hajj, but they brought them back. These are people who facilitated people to go to Mecca, and they themselves went to Mecca and were brought back. So it tells you the great lengths to which the task force is going to make sure that our pilgrims out there, especially our paid pilgrims, and some of them in protocol, get the opportunity to go and perform the Hajj. So I think that we have answered virtually all the questions. I don't know if the issue about those with visa not traveling. That's why I'm saying that if there is a case of somebody with a legitimate visa, and let me make that clear, because there are issues that have come up where people go and do swap. The swap is somebody has a visa to travel for an unavoidable reason. He's unable to travel, and then quietly behind the back of the High Task Force, some gimmicks or gymnastics are done to swap the visa without our knowledge. It's not in the record, or some other arrangement that is done where the visa for one reason or the other cannot be authenticated. It poses a difficulty in honoring that visa. So, but I can say that without any out of that, where there is a legitimate visa acquired on time and in accordance with the rules, everything possible will be done to honor that visa and make sure that the pilgrim will be airlifted to Saudi Arabia. So if you happen to have those kinds of cases and others as our partners in this exercise, you can let us know. And I'm sure that everything possible will be done to rectify it. I believe that if I've left somebody's question out.
Oh, someone, Isa from GNA, he says Hamza's question is not clear. The number.
Which one? The number of where?
He said the airlifting. He said it's not clear. Isa from GNA, I'm sure he's monitoring something.
Which number?
The number, he's monitoring for. So the number airlifted so far. He said it is not.
I'm telling you that
I think he wants the exact figure.
I gave you a figure at the end of the exercise. We expect to lift about 6,000. I said so.
What you have
currently so far,
The status quo right now.
except
Yes.
the last flight, those who have gone so far.
Yeah, I indicated. I gave you a figure of about 5,000. Let me check my figures again.
5,910.
Not 900. No, I didn't. I said it will be 900 when we do the last lift.
Okay.
Bear me out. I said we are going to do 425. So when you add the 425 to what we have already done, you come closer to 6,000. So currently we are hovering about 5,400, 5,600, 5,500 and something, closer to 600. So that when you add the 400 and something, we should be getting to the 6,000. Yes.
Have the exact figure.
Yes.
For the people.
Because these are your own.
Maybe before we close, I will liaise and get you the exact figure.
Yes, that would be better.
Yeah, I will do that for you.
So the last flight, where is it taking off?
We are doing 7 flights in Accra. We've done 6. So we have 1 flight more. And that is what I said is the last flight of 425.
I'm asking that, is it taking off?
Yes, certainly. It's an Accra flight. So it will be done at the Kotoka International Airport.
Honorable, there are
on
some
May
allegations here. I don't know what your responses will be.
Okay.
Mariam Kiptia is saying...
Mariam
Kiptia.
Okay.
She's saying during the check-ins, the guys are demanding $100 for body pass. What will you say about it?
Boarding pass?
Yes. And then there is another comment here. The guy is saying, he's called Hamza, the money. He's saying it is alleged that the task force on grounds take money to sneak people inside, leaving those joining the queues till flight becomes full. Is there any situation like that?
Sure, it's okay. Go ahead.
Hamza, the money is asking that. His first question is, there is an allegation that the task force on grounds are taking money to sneak people inside and leaving those joining the queues till flight becomes full. The second question is, will the people that will be lifted on 28th go to Medina or they are going to Makkah directly?
Okay. Thank you very much.
And then he's also asking that what number of people are traveling on the government protocol list?
Let me indicate to you that the last question on the protocol list has not yet been determined, because like I told you, efforts are being made even for those who have paid and have not traveled to be catered for first. So you can appreciate the fact that you can't determine that number even as you speak here. So clear. Now $100 for boarding pass. Let me make it very clear here. We take this work very seriously, and especially as a religious decision. If you are going to be perpetrating fraud in the performance of your duty, it has no place in the eyes of Allah Almighty. So if anybody is aware that there is a syndicate here taking $100, and they should let us know. We will deal with it ruthlessly. Anybody caught will be dealt with. So as far as I'm concerned, I am not aware, and it has not come to the notice of the Hajj task force so far. There is a very active and clandestine syndicate operating here and ferreting people or sneaking them behind barbed wires to go and enter into there. My brother, you know the travel system. Let us assume that somebody you just come with your passport, and they don't even let you go through immigration, you don't go through customs, and they just sneak you, and you come to, before you enter the aircraft, they take your passport. Alai, where's your visa? Because they will inspect your passport, they will inspect your visa, they will inspect your boarding pass, and the boarding pass will be given when you are ready to board. Alai, so where did you pass? So you see, some of these allegations and others, they can't hold water. Of course, I say that it's a hazard we face. When you are serving the public, there are all manner of things that can be thrown at you. You just take it in good faith and answer it to the best of your this. But always try to be truthful. And so in truth, we are not aware of any syndicate that operates here that smuggles people in. If that person is there, he's a Muslim, I believe, and you'll be interested in us smoking out such miscreants, he should come and give us that information. Or maybe even somebody managed in this day of ICT, somebody took pictures. They should help us. We assure them we'll get to the bottom of the matter. So where will the last flight also go to Medina? Yes, to go to Medina. The Medina airport will be officially closed on June 2nd, 2025. So once this flight will come before June 2nd, we can guarantee that we will go to Medina and give our pilgrims the same treat that they also want to have for Medina. So long as it's not before, I just pray that we don't have any postponement till after June 2nd. But once this will come on the 28th of May, which I know that is before June 2nd, inshallah, they will go to Medina. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So let me say this is Mr. Abdul Mumin. He is with our corporate department office handling Tamale. They did a very great job with the first airlift, very successful, and I'm sure that when you see me somewhere, you can recognize him as having done great work in the service of Islam. Yeah, I want to summarize and just say that first I want to thank all of you for the speedy and prompt manner in which you patronize at short notice our press conference. And once again to reiterate my apology on behalf of the 2025 Hajj Task Force, sincerely, heartfelt apology to all our would-be pilgrims who intended to make the decision and so far had been disappointed. By the grace of Allah, we are not perfect, but we shall endeavor for those that we can correct. Like I said, we will correct. Those for unavoidable reasons who cannot go this year, we plead with them to forgive us. It was not deliberate, and we have not sought deliberately to frustrate anybody from going. Every human being in the performance of his or her duties at a certain point may make some mistakes. Not willful. We have not willfully sought to frustrate anybody from going. So I apologize once again to all of them, and I believe in the spirit of Islam. They will forgive us so that together, if you don't go this year, maybe Almighty Allah, some of you are Malams, you say that the Hajj is a calling. So it's Allah Almighty who does the calling. So we hope that those who are unable to go, Almighty Allah will give them calling next year so that together we can patch up. I want to thank all of you for patronizing this exercise, and I'm sure that our officers will get back to you. So you can remain here.
Your full name and designation.
Your
full name and designation.
My name is my name is Honorable Alhaji A.B.A.
HAFIZ TV, unique every day.